You talk about bold leadership, you talk about Liberals, Conservatives, same old story, but I'd like to hear your assessment of your current leader, Jagmeet Singh, because your party is bleeding support in the polls to both of those other parties. Do you need a different way of getting that message through then? Because it doesn't seem to be hitting when Canadians are going, where pollsters are going to Canadians.
Well, I think it's encouraged to not pay what they owe in taxes. Which brings me to Mark Carney and Brookfield Asset Management, the person who has been touted as having the solutions to our economic challenges. And yet Mark Carney is very much the poster person for the broken system, accumulation for the rich at the expense of workers and Canadian communities. A 2023 report from the Centre for International Corporate Tax Accountability and Research called Brookfield Canada's top tax dodger. In 2021, Brookfield Asset Management dodged a jaw-dropping $6.5 billion all on its own. We are seeing an unprecedented attack, an economic war on Canada and Canadian workers by the U.S. Trump administration. And let's be clear, Canadians have rejected it out of hand. The despicable lies from President Donald Trump about fentanyl and migrants, the leveling of punitive tariffs on Canada and Mexico on the whim of a megalomaniac president, the disrespectful and reprehensible attacks on our sovereignty as a nation. Let's be clear, our sovereignty and our independence didn't just happen. We are a country proud to be there for each other, not afraid to recognize historic wrongs like the genocide against Indigenous peoples. We are proud to celebrate our diversity, valuing it as our very essence. President Trump, you have tried to insult our political institutions, our independence, our true identity. But let me tell you, we are proud of who and what we are as Canadians. Our country will live on well after you and your administration are gone. I have never been more proud of our country. I have never seen such an outpouring of support for our country, and we need to continue to do this. But we also need to recognize that the attack on us by the Trump administration and our vulnerability to that attack didn't just happen. We need to take bold action to support each other and make sure that our Canada is less vulnerable in the future. Today, we're dealing with the legacy of decades of hollowing out of our economy, key sectors like manufacturing and mining sectors, and our taxation system itself, an agenda of tax breaks for big corporations and the wealthy. It is the result of decades of liberal and conservative policies, of job-killing trade deals, of privatization and austerity that have brought us to this point. It is the result of the intentional establishment of a tax code that allows the rich and powerful to get away without paying their fair share of taxes while workers pay more than what they have. The rich and powerful have been allowed and even encouraged to not pay what they owe in taxes. Which brings me to Mark Carney and Brookfield Asset Management, the person who has been touted as having the solutions to our economic challenges. And yet Mark Carney is very much the poster person for the broken system, the hollowing out of Canada that has made us so vulnerable today. Mark Carney has a clear track record of pushing for wealth accumulation for the rich at the expense of workers and Canadian communities. A 2023 report from the Centre for International Corporate Tax Accountability and Research called Brookfield Canada's top tax dodger. In 2021, Brookfield Asset Management dodged a jaw-dropping $6.5 billion all on its own, according to Canadians for Tax Fairness. This means that 1 in 5 of all the tax dollars corporations diverted from the Canadian public came from Brookfield alone. This is obscene, and Canadians are paying the price. Today, we in the NDP are calling on Mark Carney to come clean about his role in Brookfield's exploitative practices. Did he help Brookfield dodge taxes? Canadians deserve to know. With the tax dollars Brookfield hid in offshore accounts in Bermuda, we could have invested in healthcare, affordable housing, and desperately needed infrastructure on First Nations. Today, we are calling for tax fairness to strengthen our sovereignty and our fight against the American administration, bold action that will begin to reverse the hollowing out of our economy and the inequality and vulnerability many Canadian workers face because of that hollowing out. This also means taking on Trump's American billionaire buddies and their companies who work here in Canada without paying their fair share of taxes, if they pay them at all. Elon Musk, Amazon, Walmart, Uber, Airbnb, often making it easy for them to compete unfairly with Canadian companies, even putting those companies out of business. These tech bros and their fellow billionaires are taking advantage of Canada's lax tax code to extract massive wealth from Canadian workers and our country. And they're now cheerleading debilitating tariffs on us all. Enough is enough. Today's unfair tax system has weakened our strength as a country and is rendering us more vulnerable in times like these. It starts by making sure that those who have been part of the problem, wealthy tax avoiders, become part of the solution by paying the taxes that they should have been paying to begin with. It's time for bold leadership to turn the clock back on the hollowing out of our economy and restore fair taxation. The Liberals have failed to fix our tax system. Look no further than their supposed flagship promise, the capital gains tax. Now, both leading leadership candidates have promised to scrap the capital gains tax, a tax that would have generated $17.4 billion, according to the PBO, for our economy. The Conservatives have been on the same page, voting against our NDP proposals on fair taxation and rabidly opposing the capital gains tax, using fake news and fear-mongering to make their point. And now Pierre Poilievre is bizarrely pointing to tax cuts as his response to Trump's tariffs. Liberal, Tory, same old story.
You talk about bold leadership, you talk about Liberals, Conservatives, same old story, but I'd like to hear your assessment of your current leader, Jagmeet Singh, because your party is bleeding support in the polls to both of those other parties. What do you make of that, and do you still have confidence in him?
Absolutely. Jagmeet Singh is our leader, and he will be our leader going into the election. There's no question. And I'm proud of the work that he has done and that the NDP has done. But as I've also said today, this is a moment where, as Canadians, we need a bold vision to strengthen our country. And it's only the NDP and our leader, Jagmeet Singh, that has been calling for tax fairness, including a wealth tax. It's only the NDP that's been clear that the rolling back of the increased capital gains tax is shameful and unacceptable. And it's only the NDP that's calling out billionaires, and obviously right now, including calling out Mark Carney's involvement in Brookfield Asset Management. Right, Mark Carney, who's been touted as the poster person for our weathering this economic war on our country, has in fact actively been part of a corporation that is part of the problem, not paying its fair share of taxes. I think this is a moment where Canadians are afraid, are concerned, are coming together proudly, but also saying that we need a different way of doing things. And the NDP, I would argue, is the only party that's clearly calling for a different way of doing things right now.
Do you need a different way of getting that message through then? Because it doesn't seem to be hitting when pollsters are going to Canadians.
Well, I think it's this is an unprecedented time, right? And we've been clear on where we stand. I mean, we've also been very clear that we want Parliament to be called back immediately. We've also been clear that Parliament should be involved in putting forward a plan to assist workers that are in crisis at this time in our communities.